Ancient Nineveh is modern-day Mosul in Iraq, which we've heard a lot about over the past couple of decades. And in fact, most of what we heard has been bad news. In Mosul, in the area of the ancient walled city of Nineveh, was said to be the tomb of the prophet Jonah. It sat atop one of the two mounds in the ancient city, and as archaeologists dug down, they found layer upon layer that kept going back further and further in history. Two stamped bricks have been found on the site that go back to the 800s BC, which would mean that those two bricks are probably at least over 100 years older than the Book of Jonah itself. There was also a long inscription of the Assyrian king Sennacherib, who ruled from 705 to 681 BC, and who shows up in the Hebrew Bible by name multiple times. An Assyrian palace had been on the site, where huge statues and reliefs have been discovered. Years later, a Christian church was built on the mound, probably in the 7th century, and it was renovated and enlarged in the 10th century. At some point in the church's history, a tradition arose that the church had been built atop the tomb of Jonah. A full skeleton of a whale was brought in, supposedly the skeleton of the fish that carried Jonah. Over the years, that skeleton was lost bit by bit until there was only one ancient tooth left. And then, as Iraq became a predominantly Muslim country, a mosque was built on the site dedicated to the prophet Jonah, known to them as Yunis. The shrine was a place revered by Jews, Christians, and Muslims. In Iraq, where religious pluralism wasn't always welcome, it was a beacon of unity, peace, and prayer. Northern Iraq, and Mosul in particular, was a stronghold of Iraqi Christians. Iraqi Christians and their churches thrived and were places of tremendous growth and fervency in faith. Their story is remarkable, and frankly, more Christians should be aware of their story. Christians in the West sometimes bemoan the hardships of the prevailing culture, which can push back at faith-based communities, but our hardships were nothing like the hardships of Iraqi Christians. Of course, with the rise of ISIS, Christians were targeted in the most brutal of ways. Their churches were bombed. Their priests were killed. Baptized children were murdered in the most heinous ways. And in July of 2014, ISIS completely destroyed the Shrine of Jonah. As a place of religious cooperation and shared place of pilgrimage, ISIS saw the shrine as a place of apostasy, and therefore it had to be destroyed. But with ISIS's defeat, life in Mosul is slowly coming back to some sense of normalcy. The Shrine of Jonah and the mosque is in terrible shape, but its destruction did provide archaeologists with a new opportunity. Tunnels were exposed for the first time, probably for the first time in hundreds of years, and archaeologists continue to study the site and learn new things about the history of ancient Nineveh all the time.